Hello and welcome to the Ryan Mack Show. I am your host, Ryan Mack, conservative millennial. So, big updates since last time we spoke. It's primary season, and as you most of you probably know, you've been following it if you're like-minded. The Iowa caucuses were last week, and as expected, Trump won by a large margin, actually the largest margin in caucus history at Iowa. He won 51% of the votes and 20 of the delegates of the 40 delegates. So Ron DeSantis came in a close second, if you want to count close as 21%. He came in with 9, he gained 9, and Nikki Haley got 19% of the votes, and she got 8. Vivek finished last, and he gained 3 of the delegates at 7%. So by and large, again, Trump won Iowa as expected. He won 98 of the 99 counties as expected. The one county didn't win. Nikki won by 1 vote. So here are the rules for the Republican delegates for 2024. If you're not familiar, the nominee is to be selected by the National Convention, which will be held this year, I believe, July 15th through the 18th in Milwaukee. It is the formal ceremony. It is which the official party adopts and selects its nominee, and the delegates are then these individuals that are chosen to represent their state or territory at the convention. So there's a little background there. So there are an estimated 2,400 or so delegates, 25 pledged delegates, and 104 unpledged delegates. To win the nomination, the presidential candidate must receive support from the majority of delegates, which is around 1,215. So that is some background on the Republican National Convention. Iowa, for instance, has 40. Most states have their own rules as far as the plurality of the vote or winner-take-all scenario. So as is, Trump overwhelmingly won Iowa, which was predicted by the polls. Now, polls don't mean anything, obviously, but he did win by a large number. And as such, he's winning big in New Hampshire, South Carolina, and others. So we have 2 important updates. Vivek and Ron DeSantis have dropped out. Vivek has been the most supportive of President Trump. And let me just preface this by this. Primary season, as you know, with 2016, 2020. 2020, they didn't have any for Trump because he was the incumbent. He was the one that everybody got behind as an incumbent. 2016 was about 20 candidates, and it was brutal. Trump called Ted Lying Ted. He buried Chris Christie again back then. He called Jeb Bush all kinds of names. He called Marco Rubio, senator of Florida, who later became a good ally of his, little Rubio, little Marco. It's primary season. It gets nasty. So there are going to be name calling. There are going to be all kinds of brutal attacks by the candidates. Now, Trump is the front runner by and large. And he's not going to shy away from any kind of attacks. So naturally, he had a nickname for Ron, and it was Ron DeSanctimonious. That has since been retired. He made a speech the other day, and the final breakdown of that speech, I pulled the last part of it because I think it was important. So Trump, there's no question that Trump loves this country. You can question his personal stories, his personal life, his exaggeration on some of the stories. It's like our grandpa or uncle that exaggerate the size of our fish. You can question those things. You can question some of the things he says and tweets and whatever. But you can't question his love for the country. And I thought this last 40 seconds or so of his speech in Iowa was perhaps the most profound, and it's a general overall theme of why he's running again and why he ran the first time. So let's take a look.
But you know, the truth is the people in our country are great. They're all great. We love Iowa, but they're all great. They only want to see one thing. They want our country to come back. They're embarrassed by what's going on. Our country is laughed at. All over the world, they're laughing at us. And they want our country to come back. They want America, they want us to be great again. It's a very simple. MAGA, make America great again. And America first. America first is a very important part of MAGA.
Now, Make America Great Again is his slogan again for 2024. It was for 2016, 2020. Keep America Great was 2020. Now, despite what you think of that, MAGA has become an extreme term by the left, and even as so as the DOJ and the Biden administration has deemed us who support Donald Trump the MAGA extremists who want to destroy this country, and we are the fascist. We simply just want America to stay America and not communist China. We are being overrun by a minority of Marxists and socialists at the administrative level, a bunch of woke idiots who have high degree of zero intelligence, and they're making decisions based on gender and equality or equity in the name of everybody is equal. So that's where we're at as administration. They're playing gender identity and gender politics instead of actually basing it on the Constitution. Trump, for all his flaws, is the front runner. Vivek jumped in behind him. Now Ron DeSantis dropped out yesterday, which I think is a weird timing. I think if he knew that this was going to be a one-horse race at the end, why didn't he drop out after Iowa? Now, I've heard a couple others this week give their reasons why. I think he waited a little bit before the next primary. Maybe there was a deal or negotiations behind the door with Trump that maybe he'll get a cabinet position. That's possible. Drop out now, I'll give you this, that kind of thing. That's possible. So we may not know, at least for a little bit, why or what's the reason behind him dropping out. If you're a strong DeSantis supporter, you may question his decision, and that's fine. But I think they began most reasonable DeSantis supporters, and I know a few of them. They were not anti-Trumpers. They just didn't like the way anti-Trampers. Yeah, that makes sense. Anti-Trumpers. They were not anti-Trump. They were just more conservatively towards DeSantis. He was the more conservative in Florida. He was the more conservative of all fronts in Florida. Trump, I will admit, he's not been the most conservative on his pro-life stance. He has been kind of a wishy-washy on that. But I think the thing you have to understand with Trump is that actions and policy mean more than what he says. Now, especially on the campaign trail, you make promises, you keep promises, right? But if you're teetering on the brink of some of these groups of people you need to support and need to get behind, the suburban moms, which I think he failed a lot in the 2020 midterms. We saw that with his candidates that were hardcore one way on abortion only. And the ones who are pro-choice or a little bit backed off of some of the extreme ban rules or bans that these candidates put forth, I think you saw that that made or break those candidates. And I think Ron has done a great job in Florida. I think contrary to what the primary season brought about, Trump said some things that were off the cuff about Ron, and that's primary season. I don't think he really meant that he failed in Florida. He did, of course, along with everybody else in the Trump administration and the states, at first, shut down in the pandemic. Florida was one of the ones that opened up, but they still locked down. They did it. They did go along with the 2 weeks to slow the spread, which we know now was a bunch of bull. So, having said that, I think Ron made a decision that he knew that this was an uphill climb, and he made it, and he stood behind Trump. So we have Trump, DeSantis, and Vivek now getting behind each other and forging forward. Now, tomorrow, is the New Hampshire primary. That's official primary season kickoff. And Trump is ahead. I like the last poll I saw was 57-38 over Nikki. He's up by almost 30 points there, or 20 points there. And South Carolina, he's up big too in her home state as well. Nikki Haley's got another issues to come. So, all right. So I got Trump wins Iowa, the Republican breakdown of the rules of the delegates, so you understand how that works. Ron dropped out. Vivek dropped out. They're getting behind Trump. And something controversial came out this week. Nikki Haley is brown. We'll get to that. But that's all coming up tonight. It won't be probably I don't know. I may go an hour. We'll see how it goes. I want to give you my takes on what the administration is going to look like going forward. Some guesses, some hot takes on what Trump might do as far as his cabinet. So I want to play for you. Let's see where we go. The DeSantis concession speech. A little bit. Just it's about 4 minutes long, but I want to play just a little bit of it and his reasoning for why he did the way he did, and his explanation. And his closing message, basically, he's suspending his campaign. He's not ending it. Suspension generally means you can bring it back up at some point, either to pay campaign debts or whatever else needs to happen. It's not an outright end. If something unfortunate should happen down the road where Trump is no longer the leading candidate, then maybe he's got an opportunity to jump back in and swoop some of these super delegates and delegates out of the way. But here's a little bit of his speech. Just take a listen and pay attention to his remarks. Now it's prepared. Obviously, he had this written. So here we go.
Greetings from Florida. The warmth of being home is a reminder why I've chosen public service. From joining the United States Navy and serving in Iraq, to representing the people in the U.S. Congress, and now serving as governor of Florida. And it reminds me why I decided to run for president, to fight for those who have been forgotten in this country. This is America's time for choosing. We can choose to allow a border invasion, or we can choose to stop it. We can choose reckless borrowing and spending, or we can choose to limit government and lower inflation. We can choose political indoctrination, or we can choose classical education. These choices are symptoms of the underlying struggle to ensure that constitutional government can endure and that Western civilization can survive. And we launched this campaign to bring accountability to government, regain sovereignty at our border, and restore sanity to our society. We cannot succeed as a country if we allow our nation to be invaded, our currency to be debased, our cities to crumble, and our kids to be indoctrinated. The DC elites who facilitated this mess do not care about you, and they do not work for you. They work for themselves. They seek to accumulate power at your expense to pursue an agenda that is harmful to the American people. Citizens do not serve politicians. It is the duty of politicians to serve you. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Reversing the decline of this nation requires leadership that delivers big results for the people we are elected to serve. I have a record of leading with conviction, championing an agenda marked by bold colors, delivering on my promises, and defeating the people who are responsible for our nation's decline. That is the type of leadership we need for all of America. Now, over the past many months, Casey and I have traveled across the country to deliver a message of hope, that decline is a choice, and that we can, in fact, succeed again as a nation. Nobody worked harder, and we left it all out on the field. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign.
All right, so there's a little bit left of that, but that was the basic sense. It was very well written, well prepared. That was a really good message closing out his campaign. So he will now be campaigning with Trump. We'll see what it looks like. Now, all right, so on that, Trump, Vivek, and DeSantis are now on the Trump train. So with that, everybody says, oh, I think Trump's going to get VP. I think he's going to pick DeSantis. I don't think DeSantis wants it, and I don't think he should take it. And I've heard a few others say the same thing, and here's my take on it. So the VP role, as you know, is a placeholder. It's nothing more than just a shiny second place position that goes out and kind of just talks and does speeches, goes to events in the event of the president can't be around, and by nature they're not supposed to be together as often by design, or should something happen to them. But it's really nothing more than a figurehead position unless the president is in danger and loses his life. That's really what the vice president's role is. It's really nothing more prominent than that. It's a placeholder and a figurehead unless something should happen. That being said, that I think he would be a good vice president. I think he would. But I think I agree with something that Dan Bongino brought up earlier on his show. If you caught his podcast, if not, go to Rumble and catch his podcast. Glenn Beck had said that he thinks Attorney General role would suit Ron best. He's got law experience. He's got a background in that field. So I think the Attorney General role would suit him well. And I think, I don't know all of his background. I know he's got a great military background. Attorney General, you don't have to have all kinds of crazy experience. I mean, clearly the Biden administration's entire cabinet is based on either skin color, genitalia, or color of their hair, and not based on qualifications. Your press secretary currently is a black lesbian, not based on qualifications. He's literally the dumbest person alive. So there's that. Their Health and Human Services leader is a man. At one point, their nuclear department head or weapons area personnel was led by a bald dude in a dress who stole more dresses. So that's where we're at in my administration. So anybody at this point, I would appoint a dog catcher from a small town in the middle of America over what has been happening in the cabinet Biden administration. Now, so Glenn thinks Attorney General would fit him well, possibly. So if not VP, Ron could possibly, would he accept? I don't know. I think that would be a good role for him. He would clean out some of the things that need to be cleaned out. I think that he would take the woke out of the DOJ. He would attack the DOJ for weaponization. I think that what you saw in Florida, how he operated and how he ran Florida, would lead to his experience and driving out some of the divisiveness and the garbage in Washington as Attorney General. Do I think he'll take it? I don't know. Will he be asked in that role? Don't know. We should know about that in the months coming soon. We have, 9-10 months before the election. So we'll know more about whose cabinet members Trump will pick. Dan DiMangino laid out a scenario in which if he's offered Secretary of Defense, because of Ron's excellent military background, because of his way of handling the woke swamp, he also would be a great fit to turn the military around and make sure that they dropped everything out of the military, what doesn't need to be there. We are supposed to be the best and brightest and most powerful military in the world, and we have not displayed that. Despite some of the things that have been happening in the Middle East, we have not displayed that ferocity that we've come to know about American military. I think Ron will be a great pick for that as well. I think that if he's offered that, he should take it. I think Secretary of Defense is a very important role, and especially with the way Ron did things in Florida and how he rooted out the wokeism, I think that would be a perfect role, even better role than Attorney General. I think Trump learned a lot of lessons about his picks before. I think he played close to the vest with those who were loyal to him, and that's nothing wrong with that. I think he made some mistakes along the way with certain personnel. I think he's learned from that. And I know some of the haters out there who think that Ron should stay in it and Ron should continue running because we want to see 8 years of conservatism instead of just the 4 that we get with Trump. And I get all that. But you're not going to get Trump's base. You were never going to get his base. There were a lot of people who were so pro-Trump because of the way things went down with him and the weaponization and the constant attacks and the 91 indictment counts. You weren't going to move that needle. So I think Ron made the good decision of stepping aside and jumping in and getting behind the support Trump needs. He didn't need his support, but I'm just saying it's good for the unity of the party needs everybody to drop out and get behind Trump, because this is where Biden is the problem. The infighting in the party is not. We need to stop Biden and the far left from further destroying the country. And you do that by getting behind the front runner. All right. So Vivek, he also stepped down. I think he's going to be great in the role of Secretary of State, possibly, or maybe he could be a VP pick. He's a great mind, a great speaker. I don't know a whole lot about him. I don't know what he brings. Some others have criticized him, how he's just another Obama, not because of his race, but because of the way he's eloquently spoken, but he may not do hardly anything at all. I don't believe that. I think that he's going to do a lot of things, a lot of good things. Look, he's a millennial, and it's important to bring that young vote over. And those who are enthusiastic about Vivek are still conservative enough that they will bring that support to Trump. And I believe that he will bring that Gen Z millennial gap that Trump needs back to him. So Vivek and Ron and Trump are out there. Now that leaves Nikki Haley. Man, oh man, oh man. First off, she's a rhino. I'll just say this. Nikki Haley, when she was ambassador of the UN, she fulfilled that role really well. I will be honest, I admit that. She was really good at the UN ambassador. Having said that, she's made a lot of mistakes recently flip-flopping. Here's about 1:13 minutes of those flip-flops. And then after that, I want to bring up somebody that is all aboard the Nikki train, and I think he's a superstar on the right, and someone that is spending his time going to leftist media and spending his time in Switzerland and as well. So I think he's a prominent character. I think he'd be a great help to Nikki's campaign. Might even put her over the top. But here's Nikki Haley. Here's her 1:13 of flip-flopping because, man alive, she cannot stop running her mouth and lying about things that she believes in. So here's a quick hot take.
I would not run if President Trump ran. I'm Nikki Haley, and I'm running for president. I will not now, not ever, support raising the gas tax. Let's increase the gas tax by 10 cents over the next 3 years. A huge issue that I'll deal with as soon as I get there is social media. They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. I never said government should go and require anyone's name.
That's false.
I think China's been a really great friend of ours. Yes, I view China as an enemy. That was not what I intended to say. I do not think we need to pull money from the UN. The UN, the only thing is we would defund the UN as much as possible.
When a 12-year-old child in this country assigned female at birth says, actually, I feel more comfortable living as a boy, what should the law allow the response to be?
Well, I think the law should stay out of it, and I think parents should handle it. I think there should be federal involvement. You should not have any gender-altering anything done to a child before the age of 18.
So which is it, Nikki? Do you support gender mutilation or do you not? Do you support gas tax increases or do you not? Do you support Ukraine? Do you not? Obviously she does. She's all in it. She's a war hawk. Nikki Haley has had a long history of flip-flopping. Just the other day, she made a statement about, I never said that Hillary Clinton was an inspiration. And lo and behold, there's a video of her saying, I took my inspiration from Hillary. I think I ran because of Hillary. What more do you need? The Democrats are lumping together and putting their money and weight behind Nikki because they know they can mold her into something that maybe a little bit less than lefty than Joe Biden and some others and Gavin Newsom, but just moldable enough to be able to push her to the left of everything. And that's what we don't need. She would not be a good president. There's been rumors about a vice president. Hell or high water, I would not think that Trump would pick her as a vice president. I think after we've seen her flip-flop now and come out with the things that she said and the past things that she said, not a good idea. And I think he's even made statements recently as such. Now, however, she does have a large deficit in the states going ahead. But I think one of the people that could help her out the most is currently hanging out at CNBC, giving his thoughts in Davos. You might be thinking, who could possibly bring Nikki Haley over the top? Just watch this with a straight face. And if you don't know who he is, I'll tell you afterwards. But it's a huge character, and it's bigger than George Soros. It's laughable at this point. If you're thinking Adam Kinzinger, close. Just watch this.
Look, a lot's going to happen between now and November. Nothing's linear in politics these days. There's a zigzag, so who knows is the point. Biden is so weak that even Donald Trump pulls ahead of him. But look at Nikki Haley's polling. I mean, she beats him by like 12 points in head-to-head polls. So I would prefer a candidate who I think would be a good president and who I know is going to win. And by the way, give us more seats in Congress. That's Nikki Haley. Well, obviously, my preferences aren't bubbling through the Republican Party right now. But let's just wait and see what happens in New Hampshire and see if this inevitability narrative, which has credence now coming out of Iowa, if it sticks past New Hampshire. And if Nikki Haley wins New Hampshire, then I think we got a race in our hands. So I want to wait and see what happens there.
Well, you made a lot.
If you don't know who it is, that is former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, the most Mitt Romney, Chris Christie-like person ever. He was the worst Speaker of the House we've ever had. And so, of course, he would be all in on the Nikki train. That should make you throw up. But yeah, he's going to put her over the top. His meeting there with CNBC hosts and sitting there in Davos. That's another episode for another time. The elites in Davos don't care about us over here. They're flying over there on their big jumbo jets to tell you not to eat meat and to eat bugs and to watch your carbon footprint while they just go suck it out of the air. All right, so that is Paul Ryan. He thinks Nikki Haley should win, and she's going to win. I think he should just be her running mate. I think that would be a great pair. Nikki Haley, Paul Ryan, 2024. Just great. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. I don't see any scenario in which that's going to happen. Not that it wouldn't, but it's not going to win any other way. All right, there's some other controversial news came out this week with Nikki. She's a woman. We know this. She was a governor of South Carolina before. She's going to stay in the fight as long as she can, and she's going to think that she's going to win. But she's now pulling something she has pulled in the past because she said she's not racist, but she actually is. And she pulls the race card when she actually does. But she flip-flops on that as well. So earlier this week, Nikki went to interviews and basically pulled the woe is me, I'm just a brown girl in the South who couldn't get into a beauty pageant because they wouldn't allow Black or Asian people in a beauty pageant. Now, if you don't know her age, she was roughly born around the 70s, early 70s. And so this was been about the 80s that she would have been involved in a pageant. Nikki, it's not because you're brown and an Indian, it's because you just weren't a good fit. Your other characteristics make you probably not a good fit for the pageant, I can tell you. But nevertheless, again, she pulls the race card like all the Democrats do. She pulls the gender card like all the Democrats do. Here she is, about a minute 33 or so, giving the heartfelt story about how hard her life was because she was brown in South Carolina.
We were the only Indian family in our small southern town. I was teased every day for being brown. So anyone that wants to question it can go back and look at what I've said on how hard it was to grow up in the deep South as a brown girl. Anybody can look at my record and see when Walter Scott was shot down by a dirty cop, how I made sure that the Walter Scott family didn't suffer because we put the first body camera bill in the country in place. Anybody can look at the fact that when we had 9 amazing souls die in Mother Emanuel Church, I did something that no Republican or Democrat ever wanted to touch, which was call for the Confederate flag to come down because it would take 2/3 of the House and Senate and was an impossible feat. I don't know what you're implying with that, but what I will tell you is saying that I had Black friends is a source of pride. Saying that I had white friends is a source of pride. If you want to know what it was like growing up, I was disqualified from a beauty pageant because I wasn't white or Black, because they didn't know where to put me. So look, I know the hardships, the pain that come with racism. It's the reason that I fight bullies every day when it comes to racism, anti-Semitism, or hate, and I always will. If I didn't mention slavery on that day, it's because that's an automatic. There's always been, the Civil War's always been known about slavery.
Oh my gosh. How can anybody sit there with a straight face and not think, shut up about gender, shut up about your race? You're not even that brown of an individual. Yes, she's Indian. And she was so offended about being chosen to play Pocahontas in her past that she was not the right kind of Indian. Just a second. I'm going to play the world's tiniest violin. Nikki Haley is a panderer, just like the left. Nikki Haley is going to, when she's failing and when she's losing, she has nothing else to do but, hey, I'm a woman. I'm also a minority, kind of. So I'm going to play that card now since I'm losing. And then she's going to call out Trump and say, you just hate brown women and you're racist, you're misogynist, and blah, blah, blah. Nikki, you're down by 30 points in every state going forward. Bow out and save yourself the disappointment and embarrassment you're going to have. If you vote for her simply because she's a woman, I feel sorry for you. You are stupid. And not because you're a woman, but because you literally are the dumbest human being on the planet. If you vote based on identity politics, that is the reason why the left keeps winning. They have you in their bag. You don't vote on your identity. You vote for policy and principle. You stick with your principle. It's principle over people. That's what we do in the Republican and the conservative movement. It's principles over people. That's where we're at. But on the night of the caucus, guess who's going to be right there with Nikki, pushing that brown narrative? None other than Joy freaking Reid on MSNBC, running her mouth about how she's never going to win because she's brown and in America in a party that just hates brown people because they're racist.
New Hampshire.
And I think to the point that you made, Steph, I mean, it's the elephant in the room. She's still a brown lady that's got to try to win in a party that is deeply anti-immigrant and which accepts the notion that you can say immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. She's getting, birthered by Donald Trump. And I don't care how much the donor class likes her, which will ramp up a lot, the better she does in New Hampshire. So it's still a challenge. I don't see how she becomes the nominee of that party with Donald Trump still around. I can't picture it happening. Maybe it could happen. Ron DeSantis' only argument for staying in it is he's the white guy, that he can still make the appeal to white evangelists.
While we have
I couldn't even pay attention to what she was saying because I was looking at her very, very dark contrast between her blonde platinum hair and the roots, which were black. I'm not sure what she was doing there, but it looks terrible. But that is Joy Reid. She hates all white people, despite, I think, married to a white person. Don Lemon, remember him? CNN, canceled a long time ago. Also hates white people, married to a white man. So many of these idiots that base things on race and gender typically are hypocritical, but that's not why Democrats do it. It's about hierarchy. They're in charge. You're not. Sit down and shut up. They don't care. They look hypocritical. She is the most race-baiting individual on MSNBC. She goes on there the night of the caucus and says, Republicans are the party of racism. They hate black people. And of course she should use the brown movement because she's a brown woman and Trump's white and he hates women. That narrative is dead. It has been dead since 2016. Does Trump have his problems maritally over in the past? He's been married 5 times. I can't think of any one of them who have been actually American. So to sit there and say Trump has the worst personality towards migrant or immigrant or brown-skinned women, all of his wives were in fact not white. So that also is dead. Joy Reid makes the dumbass comment of the night. The Republican Party, at its core, was the party of anti-slavery and that individual freedoms and liberties existed. 1860s was the revival of the Republican Party. It was brought before that, but it didn't really set into stone what their ideals were until Abraham Lincoln. Guess who? What party, Joy? Your own party was the party of the KKK, Jim Crow laws, women's suffrages. It took Republicans to vote for women's rights. It took Republicans to bring about the right to vote for women. It took Republican Party to vote overwhelmingly to bring blacks to have rights in this country, not Democrats. Democrats kept voting for less rights for women and blacks and minorities. It's your history. You can tear down a statue all you want, but that is your history. They continue to ignore what the party has always been about. Now it's even further to the left. Now they're going to the woke. Anybody can be a woman. Anybody can be a man. You can be a furry. Now in schools, kids can be furries. Who knew? That's the modern Democrat Party. Wherever the wind goes, the Democrats will follow. Whatever the popular trend is socially, that's what they'll be their guiding principle for the politics. They have no principles, no morals, no intelligence whatsoever. They care about appealing to your emotions and whether or not you have testicles or a vagina, and that you can intermingle. You can intermingle and you can be one or the other. Men can get pregnant and you can be furries. That's where we're at, unfortunately, with the Democrat Party, and it's getting worse. Don't vote gender identity. Don't vote identity. Keep that in the Democrat Party. If you're conservative, if you're Republican, if you're voting Republican, vote principle over party and principle over people. That's what this is about. Trump is the leader, not because of who he is, because what he stands for. This idea that Trump has a cult following is not true. Are there some people that just idolize him? Sure. I'm not one of them. I think he's got some issues personally, but that's not for me. I didn't vote for him because he has personal issues. I voted for him because he, A, loves the country, and B, fights the mob, fights the Democrat Party, fights the institutions that try to weaponize the government against him, and he takes on the swamp. Now, you can argue all you want, the differences between Ron and what he did in Florida and Trump what he did nationally, but there's a vastly different platform to run when you're running a country versus running a state. There's a lot more limitations than you have at the national level. Yes, you can escalate that to a national level if you run a state the right way, but it is a lot harder when you don't. Even when he had control of both houses and the chambers of the Senate and the House, he had the swamp in between him and his agenda. The swamp is still the uniparty. It is full of Mitch McConnells. It is full of the Chuck Schumers and the Mitt Romneys, and the rhinos of the world still control the majority of the Washington, D.C. swamp. And that's who he's fighting against. And if you can't get behind that, and you're going to say, well, DeSantis is out, I'm not going to vote because I hate Trump, that's a losing narrative. We've got to unite. We've got to come together. And there is one person that is leading the Republican Party right now, and that is Donald Trump. Whether you like it or not, he is going to be the nominee one way or the other. Even if he has to go to prison, I think Republicans and conservatives will vote hell or high water come November to make sure he is on the ballot. And if something should happen, which there has been a whole lot of chatter between the Democrats and their ilk on, man, if we can't get him legally, we might as well just wrap him in a sheet around his neck and he can just Epstein himself. That's where they're at. They're openly talking about assassinating a presidential candidate simply because they hate him that much. That's where the Democrat Party is. You have one choice. Save the republic or let it fall off and rot. Yeah, one choice, right? Like Biden. That's one choice. Two choices. I said it intentionally. The choice is clear. Save America. Get behind the conservative movement, the grass movement that Trump started in 2016, and get behind the DeSantis crowd. Let him kind of pull his base towards Trump and Vivek and form that united front against the mob, because we're going to need everything we get come November. They're going to pull out every stop known to man. We cannot let them win. We just can't. Whether you stay home, that's a losing battle. You say, oh, well, he's got him in the bag. He's going to win by a lot. There's no reason why we should be voting because he's going to win. That's also a losing method. You have to get out and vote. Nothing is a sure thing until it's a sure thing. And even then, what we saw in 2020, we thought was a sure thing when we voted, and things still happen. So get out and vote. All right. So some comments here, and then we'll finish up a little bit. I know we're a little bit shorter than we usually are, but I didn't have a whole lot going on other than the updates from the election stuff and the primary stuff and some other things with Nikki and Ron. I just wanted to keep the night simple. Here's one. Looking forward to those mean tweets coming back with a vengeance. Yes. I'm not one of them either, but I do support what he believes, and I support the fact that he knows how to actually run a country without causing chaos. He does love him some drama. I will give you that. Is Trump perfect? No, no one is. Who cares about his personal personality flaws? He can fix all that Biden has caused. Well, he can certainly fix most and get the country back on track. Yes, it is sliding into the abyss. All right. So quick little mention of some updates. Not really updates, but just some more information for you. You can always catch me on YouTube, Rumble. I have a channel on there. I have Facebook Lives, obviously. YouTube Live. Twitter is also live. I have a website. I have, let's see. All right, there's the website. I started the website. If you've seen the video first time tonight, I'm working on getting a domain so it's easier to access, but put this in your memory bank. I'm starting something new this year. Rather than trying to fight with Google, Apple, Spotify, all those different apps that you find podcasts, I wanted to try to make it easier for you, if you can't catch live videos, to catch the audio versions. Eventually, there will be live videos access or video access on the website, but it's all in one place. You can catch past episodes. You can download the SuperPass Player app. That will lead you all the website information. RyanMaxShow.superpass.io. That is the domain. And you can follow that, follow. You leave an email. I'll get your email and I'll send you some information. You'll get links and notifications when I go live or any other updates I can send. Eventually down the line, there is a spot on the website that mentions it. I will be getting my own app. Yes, the very own poor man's version of the Ryan Max Show. It is going to be up and coming down the road, so tune in for that. That way it'll be even easier. Just go download the app, Ryan Max Show app, and there you go. All right. So I have a few sponsors I want to get to, because without them, I wouldn't be doing this, and I wouldn't be able to bring you the content I do. So if you like the content, I know I'm up and coming, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. They might well listen to somebody else, but I'm just another voice in the fight if you don't catch those national guys. You can Venmo's down the ticker there. You can support the show in other ways. One of the ways is drinking some great coffee from Blackout Coffee. Blackoutcoffee.com, promo code RyanM10, save 10% off your first order. Listen, we're trying to fight the woke battle. It's hard because everything we use is from some company that pays something somewhere that you don't like, and you just wish you can get out of it. You know, China owns our lunch. They eat our lunch. They make everything we have. Let's try getting something here in America. Blackout Coffee, there's a billion companies out there, and they're one of them that is a small business. They're growing. They have a very large facility that they just built to expand because they've grown to a very large, small company. But they have a fundraising opportunity. I was a part of it last year. They've got another one where you can reserve shares of the company. They're going viral. It's great coffee. If you don't want woke Starbucks or the brands that sit on the shelf for weeks on end, this company will literally ship it to your door just a couple days after they brew it. And it's amazing coffee. And if you support like-minded ideas like conservatism and that you love this country, get you some Blackout Coffee. You won't be disappointed. It's a bold roast. There's many flavors. Get the website, get a subscription to it, get my name on there for discount for the promo code. Blackoutcoffee.com, promo code RyanM10. Get you a discount, get you some great coffee and some t-shirts and some merchandise and things like that. All right. Next one. Of course, I wouldn't go anywhere without 50 Shades of Fleece. No, it is not a porn subscription. It is a blanket. 50 Shades of Fleece is a company that is a small company run by an individual. Those of you who know me probably know who it is. I will not divulge that for such reasons I will not go into. But you can join 50 Shades of Fleece on Facebook. It is a group where you can find all your orders. Look, the recent weather has been -30 wind chill. I've got like 3 of them, and they're about 6 feet in length. And for my large fat ass, they fit me perfectly. You need to get 50 Shades of Fleece a hookup. If you mention me, I'm sure she might even give you a discounted price. 50 Shades of Fleece, the best tied fleece blankets you can buy. Not just fleece blankets. You can get a baby sensory blanket. You can make there's even a thing. I'm trying to think of it. A cat marijuana play bag. This thing is like cocaine for cats. They love it. They will go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over it. Get you things at 50 Shades of Fleece. You can find her on Facebook. Last but not least, everybody has a freaking cell phone. They can take pictures, their cousin, their brother, their sister, their aunt, their baby. They can take pictures, about 100 of them at a time on the tablet when they get a hold of it, and just. But you need to really pay attention if you want the really best bang for your buck. You want great pictures, whether it be senior pictures, weddings, just something fun to do with the family. Why not make those memories last by choosing a professional photographer in the area? Over almost 30 years of experience. He is fun. He is bold. He's daring. His studio is where you want him to be. He is not in a traditional four-walled place. He can be, but his studio is live wherever you want that memory to be. So check out jmaxphoto.com. If you mention me, he may be able to get you a discount. I don't know him personally, but check out jmaxphoto.com for all your photography and memory needs. All right. That was a lot. Made it fun, off the cuff. Thanks for my sponsors. Thank you guys for listening. I'm going to get out of here. Just remember, I'm not as consistent as I want to be lives yet, but hang in there. This isn't my only thing I'm doing, so bear with me. You can follow me on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, and my website there that I got you. If you know who I am personally, reach out to me, text me, always be a part of the show. This is a platform where I hope to grow it and get as many people as possible on this train, because we've got to stop the Democrats from destroying this country. So that's all I got to say. Next time, hang out. See you guys.